any questions, just raise your hand or let Tammy know in the chat and I will get to you. First off, I'm going to turn it over to our real property director to have her give us a little update on how we got to where we are right now.
Good morning, everyone. We have 4 properties today under the discussion items section of the agenda. These are 4 parcels along with others that are included in the motion for default judgment that the county attorney's office submitted to the courts and or before Judge Offerdew. Because of an administrative order 157-20, the courts had to have conferences with the property owners of the properties still left in the foreclosure to see if they were impacted in any way by COVID. Typically, this isn't anything that we would be involved in, but due to the COVID, they had to have these this year. So typically the motion for default judgment is submitted to the courts. And we just wait for the judge to sign the order. But having these conferences has given the owners another opportunity to be able to speak at this late in the game. Assistant County Terwilliger and myself were at all of the conferences. And I guess I would just like all of the real property committee members to understand that these properties are before you due to non-payment of their taxes. No other reasons. 3 of the properties are in their 3rd year of non-payment of taxes, and 2 of the properties before you are in their 4th year of non-payment of taxes. We do not normally have to hear anything further once the motion is filed in the courts. However, this year has been anything but normal. But please understand that it's because they have not paid their taxes that they are in this foreclosure.
Okay, Lexi, thank you. Robert, could you just give us a little update on where we are in the foreclosure proceeding and any direction from the judge on these particular parcels that came before us?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Essentially what it is we had parcels that were still in delinquent tax parcels. They are part of a motion for default judgment because none of them had answered or responded in any way to the tax petition. So those parcels were still delinquent in taxes. They still are. Normally, you don't have to have a settlement conference for tax foreclosure cases this year because of that administrative order. They apply the rationale of having a settlement conference to the tax foreclosure cases for the purpose of seeing if there were any COVID-related reasons why people couldn't pay or they couldn't contact the county about paying or anything related to the COVID epidemic that caused them to become delinquent in taxes or unable to make payment or contact the county about trying to make a payment on their taxes. Of those parcels that were still delinquent and of all the people that were scheduled for conferences, only the ones who are present today actually responded and attended those conferences by either video phone or telephone and attended the conferences. Those individuals are going to ask, no doubt, for to be able to pay those parcels, and they are still delinquent on it. And the purpose of the court conferences was not to force the county or the individuals, the taxpayers, to come to a resolution. It was just to get together and see if there were COVID-related reasons why the people were unable to pay the taxes. The court is not going to make any orders that require us to do one or the other on this. It's up to the committee to decide what they want to do.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Terwilliger. So the judge has not ordered us to take any sort of action one way or the other and is not ordering us to enter into a settlement agreement. And as Lexi said, these properties have been delinquent for several years. There's no COVID-related reason for being delinquent on their taxes, as these are the normal foreclosure properties that have either gone for 2 or 3 years without paying taxes. And as you guys will all remember on the committee, we did have our last chance meeting. We also had the opportunity for people to contact the county treasurer's office earlier in the summer to set up an installment agreement. And none of these property owners came to the county at that time, or any time until just recently with the court conferences. So as chair, I want to remind you that this is the normal foreclosure process and that it is going forward as normal, and that I don't see any reason for us to step away from the normal foreclosure proceeding. But in an effort to be fair and transparent, I wanted to bring this entire matter to the committee for your consideration as to whether or not we should hear from any of these individuals. So I would like to get a sense of the committee, whether you want to hear from any of the individuals or if we should just go forward with the foreclosure as normal. I do have the county treasurer here. He may be willing to speak to this, I'm not sure. And also, I think to be fair, if we are going to let any one of these in, then we should probably hear from all of them. But I'm willing to hear from you guys if you have questions about the process or where we are. I'm going to try to get a sense from the committee before we start allowing any of these individual landowners to start talking to us. Because this is not the last chance meeting. We already had the last chance meeting. And yep, go ahead. Treasurer Swan wants to say something real quick. I see you, Andrea.
I just want to tell everybody that my office was fully staffed and operating through this entire closure of the office building. I personally took payments in the parking lot for people. We did everything we could. Our phone was always answered. We did a lot by mail. We did a lot. I mean, like I said, I even went out in the parking lot and took payments from people who wanted to pay cash. So if anybody reached out to us during that whole period of time from March until the last day to redeem, which was July 10th, we made sure that they had an opportunity to pay. Period. I just want the supervisors to understand that what was going on in my office. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead. Just a second, Andrea.
Also, just so everybody on the committee knows, the first week in June, myself and Treasurer Swan were out to all of the properties that are left in the foreclosure, and we actually posted foreclosure notices on these properties. Some of them also received copies of the petition. So the properties were completely posted.
Well, that I just want to be clear there. Mr. Terwilliger, the judge is not indicating any legal reason for us to need to take people out of the foreclosure, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right, Supervisor Hogan.
Thank you, Chairwoman. As I understand the process, we've had the last chance, and now Mr. Terwilliger is representing the county in this matter. Is that correct?
Yes.
So I'm going to address my question to him. Is anyone here? Has anyone proven COVID-related reasons for this?
At the one conference, which we'll hear about, it'd be with Mr. Michael Terry about property owned by his deceased wife, Margaret Terry. Mr. Terry did say that he was unable to work earlier in the year because of the COVID business shutdown from the executive order, one of the 202 executive orders that closed non-essential businesses. He stated that he was a self-employed construction contractor, was unable to work for that time. Being self-employed, was unable to get unemployment insurance benefits for a time, and that was something that did impact him financially in being able to pay his taxes. He's represented here by Mr. Silvestri, who I expect would probably reiterate that same argument, which was brought up in court.
I have a follow-up.
Yes.
Were there any COVID-related reasons why Mr. Terry could not communicate with the county?
I did not hear any. See what his attorney has to say today, but at the conference, I did not hear any.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, Supervisor Hogan, since we are talking about that particular one, you'll see that the listed owner is Margaret Terry, and she has been deceased for several years.
A little
Oh.
over a year.
And the property, it's just the estate never got settled, is that?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Supervisor Leggett?
Yeah, thank you, Chairwoman Bramer. On the Terry case, it was complicated, as the letter from Attorney Silvestri has points out. I'm not on this committee, but I would request that the committee consider the request for the property owner or those that are in line of Margaret Terry to be able to settle and take this out of the foreclosure proceeding. It's been a painful time and a difficult time for them. When you look at the properties of how it's attached onto the residence of the family as well, it's important to keep it intact. So I would request that your committee take this up and consider it to be paid off here at this point in time. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Leggett. Any other members of the committee? Supervisor Simpson?
Yeah, I've got a question. Are these property owners able to pay everything in full at this time for 3 years?
I believe 1, 2, and 3 are indicating that they can pay off the entire amount.
And the others, there's other COVID related, or, I mean, we talked about one. Is there other extenuating circumstances?
As far as I know, there are no COVID related reasons for any of them, really. The first one, there are some extenuating circumstances. I don't want to get into all of the circumstances of these, as I said, unless we want to open it up to that extent, going into the details of each of these people's cases. Hold on, Andrew. Anything else, Matt?
No, I want to hear what the rest of the committee.
Yeah, okay. Supervisor Hogan?
Thank you. I have a tremendous amount of compassion for all of these people, and I certainly would never want to make anybody's life harder right now, but we have a process, and I think we need to stick to the process. I'm not comfortable with the precedent that this would set if we open the door and allow everyone to start pleading their case when we've already followed a very defined process. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Beatty?
I concur with Supervisor Hogan. I've been very lenient on making sure people keep their lands. I go overboard to ensure that happens. But we've had a last call meeting already. We've had every individual had an opportunity to reach out to the Treasurer's Department. As Mr. Swan has said, they were open. They're even meeting people in the parking lot. I think it almost sets a bad precedent if we have a last chance meeting. Now we have a second last chance meeting, then a third last chance meeting. Where does it end? I think the county's been very, very compassionate, but unless it's COVID related, and it can be specifically COVID related, I don't think that we should be putting the rest of the county taxpayers at a little bit of a disadvantage by paying on time and so forth. So I will concur with Ms. Hogan that we do have a process in place. We've been overly generous, and I think we stick to our current process and keep that intact.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take comments from our other supervisors. Go ahead, Supervisor McGowan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, talk about compassion. This is a tough thing. real tough thing for me. We have 3-4 years. We have circumstances. The COVID, I'm not buying the COVID thing because the sense of these have gone way before COVID even came. But I can understand maybe, some of the complications of possibly getting down here or working with the money. But this is gone on for a long time. And I'd be the last one to tell anybody, I'm sorry, we got to take your property because you haven't paid taxes. But I've been self-employed for 38 years. And I know when my taxes are due. And let me tell you, sometimes you got to scrape the bottom of the barrel to keep things going. And so I understand, the pain in paying them. But it's something, it's been my responsibility ever since I've been a homeowner to do. I don't want to sit there and reiterate over the story since we've already had the last chance. And I really don't want to set a precedence. But in my opinion, if you have the money to pay in full today, I'd be willing to take the money, not to take your land. And I'll gamble on the precedents in the future of how we're going to handle this. But I'll stand firm. If you have the money to pay it in full today, then great. Otherwise, we got to stay with the course that we've taken. And that hurts me to say.
Okay, that's one way we could go. Supervisor Garrity, do you want to say anything?
I just know that I'm disappointed. I mean, we've been trying to straighten out the 2 Warrensburg properties, at least the 1 Warrensburg property, for 2 years. We've been talking with the family for 2 years saying, this property is in your father's name. We need to get it straightened around. And then it took the town to take them to court on code violations to finally do something about it. So, it's not easy for us. We got no response from anyone. We did speak to the Angle boys, and both of them. I spoke to both Brian and Steve personally about this case. They did go try to straighten out 2 of the properties. We weren't talking about 65 Alban Avenue, but the other 2 properties, we waited for 2 years because there are code violations on 22 Commercial and there was code violations on 6 South Street. So 65 Alton Avenue is a different story. But I can tell you 22 South Street it's been tough, and we get no response from the other party in this whole thing. We've heard nothing. Every letter we get gets returned or doesn't get delivered. So I have compassion for 65 Alton Avenue, but I don't on 22 South Street.
That's number 4.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna.
Mr. Chairwoman?
Yes. Go ahead, Supervisor Leggett.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Well, we do have Attorney Silvestri on the phone. If more background for Terry's position could be given, it may be helpful for the committee. It is a unique situation.
I do know that. I appreciate that. And I know that there are other attorneys on for some of the other property owners. I got a note from Tammy that Supervisor Seaver would like to say something. And then I have a suggestion that maybe will help us move forward. Hold up, Rachel, we can't hear you.
Hi, thanks, Claudia. Thanks, Supervisor Bramer. I appreciate the opportunity. I'm not a member of your committee, but I am not opposed to hearing today from the attorneys that are representing their clients that have indicated some type of COVID-related impact or burden to the courts as our county attorney's office is represented, just in terms of learning more about it. And also if they're willing to pay today and pay all of the late charges and the fees associated with it. I don't know the difference between the money between going to auction and selling those properties and the cost already invested in it versus what they're willing to pay today in full. But I would just remind everyone, we're looking for ways to increase revenue, decrease expenses, and it is unique circumstances, but we certainly have policies and procedures that I hope in the future we're were a little stronger in following, but it may be worth at least hearing from them in those details today. That's just my 2 cents.
Thank you, Supervisor Seaver. So I'm hearing two a little bit different things. Let's hear from Mr. Attorney Silvestri about number 1. And I'm also hearing, let's just give everyone an opportunity to pay if they can pay in full today. I mean, the reason it is today is because we need to let the court know if we're going to amend our papers to remove any of these properties. And I don't want to let that process drag out. And I think most of these people understand that they needed, if they were going to have the opportunity to pay, that they were going to have to do it very quickly today. And the treasurer's office is open until 4:30. So what is the pleasure of the committee? I am thinking we take a motion to allow any of these 4 to make a payment today in full of all of the taxes. Are you on my committee? McGowan, you're not on my committee.
I'll put that on the floor.
All right, thank you. Yeah, it's okay, Supervisor McGowan. All right, so we have a motion from Supervisor Simpson to that effect. Is that right, Matt? Is that okay?
Yes.
And
And
the motion again is to pay in full the 3-year taxes.
yes,
Interest, penalties, everything.
No,
well,
no,
whatever the amount is for their property, they would have to pay it in full today by close of business, which in our county treasurer's office is at 4:30 p.m. And
I'll second that.
thank you. And I want to be clear that this does not include installment agreements. They would have to pay the taxes and all the penalties and interest and anything else is due. Yes, go ahead.
I just want to make everybody aware that this has to be certified funds or cash. You will not pay personal checks.
Okay, certified funds or cash, no personal checks. Any other comments or discussion on that motion, which has been made and seconded? Does anyone want to hear from any of the representatives or the property owners? Are we good going forward? All right, I don't see anybody. Is there any public comment? Don? Be heard of at this point. We'll come back in a second.
I'm sorry, I had a phone call. Did you say ask for public comment?
Yeah, do you see anything?
I did get an email from one person, a Elise Flickstein, asking, how can the Warren County Assessor's Office transfer a deed without the deed owner's consent and without a court order?
Hey, I don't know what that means.
Why?
Anything else? I'm going to call question. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Is there anyone opposed? Okay, Supervisor Hogan is opposed. Anybody else? John? I'm going to say that the motion carries. Supervisor Stroud, did you hear any of the discussion? Do you want to chime in? I know he just came in.
You're on mute, John.
Oh, John.
Yeah, I just got in, so sorry about that.
Okay, that's all right, John. We made a motion to allow these 4 property owners to come to the treasurer's office today by 4:30 to pay their taxes in full.
Oh, I'm always in favor of people that are going to pay their taxes rather than lose their property. If they've got the money and they pay and keep their land, that's a good thing.
Okay, so I'll put you down as in favor.
Okay.
Okay. County treasurer?
Yeah, if anybody is going to come, they need to call and make an appointment because the building is closed other than by appointment only. You'll need to call 518-761-6375. Make an appointment.
Tammy, can you put that in the chat box, please? 518. Mm-hmm. 761.
6375. We do have appointments open all day, so there's nothing booked when I came up. So we should be able to make accommodations to get everybody in that wants to come. but you will not be allowed in the door if you're not on the appointment list. Any other questions that anybody has?
I don't think so. I think we're good. Dawn, is there any public comment? Oh, I'm sorry.
well-
Go ahead, Supervisor. Simpson.
I just wanted to comment. I mean, these are extraordinary times. I know it's out of the ordinary. It's more work for everyone and it's different, but I just want to thank staff and Treasurer Swan and Lexi for working through this. I mean, I think it's the right thing to do. We want to keep people in their properties. If they have every penny to pay their taxes today, they should keep their property and pay them. So I just want to thank you for that.
All right, thank you. Dawn, is there any public comment now?
Supervisor Hogan.
All right, hold on. Supervisor Hogan, go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to point out that none of these are primary residents. That's all. None of them are.
Thank you, Supervisor Hogan. Okay, Dawn, is there any public comment?
I did get a follow-up email from the person that I posed the question from earlier, Elise Flickstein. Her comment was, it's illegal. That's what it means. They did that to my son, Zachary Hennessy. That's all I got.
Okay. Is there any further business to come before the committee? All right, I'll take a motion to adjourn, please. So moved, seconded by Supervisor Hogan. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Bye, everybody. Have a good day.